raw material. The other thing is change orders. And change orders that come along after construction is started, ka-ching, 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 ka-ching. Lots of times you have to go back and undo other stuff. Or a change here has ripple effects because it's a change on the top floor, but we gotta have a supporting wall underneath it, which means you gotta change something underneath. So I just want specifics up front, and then I'll lead the parade.
Can we get questions from people who are undecided rather than people who have a partisan viewpoint on this?
Can I ask a
All
question?
members of the public should be able to ask questions.
I have a question for Chief Butler. One of the reports was the Citygate report that the city commissioned or had done back in April. And it talked about fire response times. And we're being told that we need this bond because upgrading the fire stations would increase response times. But in reading the Citygate report, it says our response times are currently excellent. And they can get to any resident's house in within 5 minutes. So my question is, how do you get better than that? And I mean, are we expecting the fire department to be at my house before a fire is started? I mean, how do you get better than excellent?
Thank you very much. First of all, you are correct. You guys have amazing response times in this city, amazing. And a level of service that I've never seen. And I spent a lot of time in another department. But what I've noticed in the trend is that when the station was built, they had 800 calls a year, and today they're at 8,000. And when I was in Los Angeles, we built 19 fire stations with a bond also. But the expandability is what really helps us out. One of the things in the Citygate report was that there was 2,500 simultaneous calls. And what that means is that the resources are tied up concurrently. A bigger station will improve response times, but it's because we're looking forward. Right now it's fantastic, but who knows how the response times will be 5, 10 years from now. And that's kind of my role. I spoke to Citygate about it, that really the call load will continue to climb. And you will continue to receive what I refer to as platinum service. The other piece I'll tell you is that I worked in a city before that didn't have the type of collaboration that I've seen here in this city. From everything from community involvement to council support. And myself and Chief Hoffman have an amazing working relationship. So the response time question is just looking down the road.
You have 30 seconds.
I'd like to respond to that. Response times, there is no plan for how they're going to conduct police services or fire services in the south part of Redondo while construction's going on. Are they going to tell us that if they move all fire activities to the Grant Avenue station, they're still going to have the same response time to South Redondo that they have now? Do they plan to rent trailers? Do they plan to rent a building to house personnel and equipment and paramedics in the south? Are they going to have to pay Hermosa or Torrance to handle booking and detention facilities in the interim while the station's being built? None of these things have been thought out or specified. It's all trust us and we'll spend the money wisely.
Chief Butler should have a response to that because he brought up a new issue, which is response times during construction rather than...
Sorry, we're going to move on to the next question.
Let me answer that question.
Actually, I'd like to hear his response.
Yeah.
Quite frankly.
Okay, we can do 11-minute response.
Thank you very much.
Oh, I'll just, yes. I keep referring to my experience. First thing, sir, we're going to have temporary fire stations. That's a must. And the fire stations that will have, temporary stations will have the alarm systems, they'll have the proper dormitory set up, and your response times are not going to change. We're going to establish these mobile fire stations in the communities that we serve. We're not gonna respond all of us resourced at a Station 2. That would be ill-advised, and I wouldn't allow as your fire chief. The next piece to this is that by maintaining these modular fire stations, we're gonna keep them in the area so we can maintain what was mentioned earlier, our fantastic response times. So I think it's important to know that this part of it is thought out, and as a chief where I worked before, I managed a bond, and part of the bond was to ensure that fire stations had temporary quarters. I will tell you this, that the temporary quarters, while they may not last as long, were far nicer than the stations that they were renovating and rebuilding. So, appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Just pass it down, Chief. I'd like to respond to that.
No, it's all right.
Pardon?
It's a rebuttal to you.
Hey, you start that. You know what, I've known this fire chief for many years, and he is about straight up as it gets. I've known, the police chief used to live across the street from me, literally, the old police chief. I totally respect what's going on. I would like a little bit more clarification on some stuff. And one of them, the mayor said, is that the funds distribution has been already laid out as to how the categories?
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Broadly, yes. Yes, if you look back in our records, you will see the consultant's report that lays out the costs,
Sure, I
how
have-
they came up with the costs for each of the stations.
I have them right here. So you have, for the police station headquarters, $29.4 million principally, with a 10% contingency. Then you have Station 1 will be replaced with a $17.5 million station with a 10% contingency. Station 2 will receive a $26.1 million replacement with a 10% contingency. And then the police annex will get a $10.7 million remodel with a 20% contingency.
That actually wasn't the question.
Oh.
So the question was, I understand the overall numbers. I designed the fire life safety communications backbone for many fire stations. LA Station 39, Santa Monica Station #1, I can keep going down the list. I understand the costing and the breakouts for the engineering. That's what I was actually asking. The allowances per, so as an example, fire life safety at Station 39 ran about $180,000 for current code. What are the breakouts that were provided to get to, I understand 10 million here, but what are the general?
So that's not, we don't have that detail. So what we got to was, hold on, we hired Griffin Contractors.
Mm-hmm.
So taking a step further back, we had a strategic plan last year to get all the city infrastructure, detailed walkthrough. Councilmember Rabaji followed up with a motion in April to get the police and fire stations and other stations, and specifically fire stations, to do a walkthrough. And we hired Griffin Infrastructure. They do consulting, right? General contracting. And they went through the public works building, police building, and fire building. Literally walked through them and said, this is what it would cost to renovate. This is the current square footage. This is what you probably need to go to in your new building, so growth. In the case of the police department, we've maxed out the floor area ratio, so we have a 1.25, so we're maxing that out. They said, hey, I'm gonna use a number, so don't call me on this. The usual price per square foot is $10 to $15 a square foot. You're around 12 to 13, your contingency is $15 to $15, $17, and you take the total square footage, you multiply it by the price per square foot with the contingencies in there. And then there's another section in the report about creating the plan or putting money aside for during construction costs. So that's the general overview of the numbers.
Okay, fire chief, we've planned out all these temporary facilities. where have they identified city property or school board district property or private property that they can lease, parking lots, buildings, whatever? Do they have any idea what those entities or landlords are likely to charge? Do we know how much the temporary trailers and other things are going to cost? Again, I'm not against the object of this bond. I'm against the lack of planning, the lack of preparation, the lack of specificity. You know, if you budget, we're going to go down to Old Bristol Farms and we're going to rent the parking lot and set up some trailers, and we're budgeting $5,000 a month. And the landlord says, I'm thinking more like $25 a month. I mean, have we done any of that? Have they identified facilities or locations? No. Take our word for it. Give us your money.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Any other questions?
Hi, I came on the spur of the moment because I've been ambivalent and looking at this, and the impulse is to say, let's get on with it. But I understand the questions, and it's been very interesting hearing the questions, which haven't resolved for me anything. However, the big jolt that caused me to get in the car and get down here was this massive flyer. I think Mr. Money has this flyer that came through the door yesterday, and it's the biggest flyer I've ever seen come through the door. And the thing that sort of jolted me about that was back in the days of Measure C, some of you may remember, there were false flyers coming out from unattributed sources, making false claims. And the problem was that there was no owning up to where that came from. So when that came out, instead of reinforcing my support for FP, it made me go, wait a minute, where is this coming from? Who bought this? So I would like to know that. Who bought that flyer? And are they a stakeholder? And are they in the room? Or why did they do that?
There's a PAC. I got involved with it in the last 2 weeks or so, but it's been funded primarily first by the firefighters and police officers. They put together, actually, I think the State Fire Association helped put together that flyer. We decided with Councilmember Lowenstein, Councilmember Kalajerovich, former Councilmember Bob Pinsler, let's go with the biggest flyer we could possibly get because there's so many state propositions out there. Let's make sure we get folks' attention. So I'm sorry that triggered your PTSD from what is it? Senator Cal. But I assure you that we are all behind this and the future campaign materials you're going to get via text message, robocalls, etc.
Yeah, I can also add to that. Our state union, California Professional Firefighters, has a firefighter print design shop that I worked with to design and put that out. So if you have any information on that you think is incorrect, I'm happy to talk with you about it offline. But it is all factual and straightforward.
It doesn't reflect gender inclusion if that's what you're going for. It's just two middle-aged white males. And I think that's the problem with regards to the transparency and credibility and authenticity and integrity that everyone here is talking about. Something apparently isn't fully clearly or defined, and there are all these people having feedback about it. Why doesn't the city just take it and say, let's go back for like 3 months and then vote for something later, put it together soon? Why does it have to be forced through right now? And is there relevance to an open DOJ investigation with regards to credibility if it involves the police chief?
So I already gave the reason for why it's right now, is there's a number of bond measures coming out, and we didn't want to be third or fourth to the trough after people have decided already to give up some of their hard-earned cash to other bonds. As to why we don't have more detail and specificity, If you look at just the boat ramp that we're designing right now, 2 years, $1.6 million. If you look at Seaside Lagoon redesign, 4 years and $3 million. We don't have that kind of money to throw around for 4 separate designs for 4 different stations to come up with exact designs that you guys are asking for. The bond is what's going to fund the detailed design and will determine what we pay for construction. And that's a normal process. When I was in the federal government, we spent federal money. We did not sit there and fully design out the projects before we got money from Congress. We had to rough budget it and get money from Congress, and then we paid for the detailed design, and then we paid for the full construction cost. That's a normal process in construction of public facilities.
Not how Manhattan Beach did it, they got the designs.
So some places may do it different, but we don't have the time nor the money to do that.
Well, while y'all
Don't
think
say
you're
it's
on
the
the
no-brainer.
program, I don't feel safe.
I can't hear you.
Because when I reported an assault involving officers through Redondo Beach Police Chief Hoffman, he refused to see me. I tried multiple times since, had to go to other precincts, now DOJ is involved.
It's not the topic of the bond.
What does that have to do with what we're talking about?
Ma'am, please, it's not
Let's
something.
take time for the rebuttal. Thank you. Since the subject of these flyers and door hangers has come up, and since Mr. Obaji took a poll and asked for raised hands on a question he had earlier, I would like to know how many council members and mayor are running for re-election or are considering running for re-election who would like to have the firefighters and the police officers walk in the neighborhoods to support their campaigns. And is it possible that they're trying to push this through so that they can get reelected because the fire and the police departments are gonna be happy that they're pushing through this one measure right now?
And is there any?
Can I see a show of
Ma'am.
hands? Who's running
Ma'am.
for re-election or election who wants these guys walking and hanging door hangers for them for their seats?
Unsolicited, unwanted.
Okay, finish. Yeah, Nils first.
So I'll answer that very simply for me. I'm turned out, number one. Number two is my 2017 campaign and my 2021 campaign. I did not take a single dime from any labor union, any contractor, any license holder, any contract, anyone who does business with the city of Redondo Beach. Period. Okay? I want to make that very explicitly clear. In fact, I don't want you to clap. And in fact, in 2017, the police union and the fire department union and the Chamber of Commerce outspent me 3-1 in my 2017 campaign. In my 2021 campaign, I did not want any money from any group because I'm here for the residents. Residents first, resident only. That's it. So that's my answer to that.
Just a quick follow-up. If we could have commitments from any of our council members or mayor that they will not take advantage of feet on the ground or mailers or funding from the police and fire units so that we can be sure that you are not doing this for that purpose. Can we get you to commit to that?
Absolutely. I put out about a month ago my approval ratings based on a poll, and I'm not gonna talk about them now. But I'm not concerned about re-election in 6 months from now. I'll say this: I have a 4-year-old daughter. Every time I hook a left on McKay, I look at that fire station. I am concerned about public safety in Redondo Beach for the next generation of Redondo Beach residents, and that's what's driving me to want a new fire station for District 4. I think it's going to be immensely valuable to the residents of District 4 to have a $28 million fire station in our neighborhood serving us. I think it's going to increase turnout times out of the fire station. And I'd like to see those $1 million fire engines not stored outside, exposed to the sun, the wind, and the rain, but inside the fire station. So that's why I'm out there walking, putting in signs, and asking you to vote yes on Measure FP.
We're going to take one more question and then move on to closing statements.
Okay, this is just a clarification here. Redondo Beach basically sued the state over SB 415 where we vote in, odd number of years. here we are with 4 ballot measures, I believe, that we're dealing, that we're voting on in an even numbered year. That's my concern, is like, why aren't these ballots on the March ballot? Because that's normally when Redondo Beach votes. Here we have these ballot measures on an off-calendar election.
So I'll answer that for you. Very simple. Firstly, you have BC's House District Bond, which is not City of Redondo Beach. It's a completely separate conversation. That's not Redondo Beach. Doesn't even deal with a charter. Then you have the school board bond, which is they put their bond on and they're paying for it on their own. We have a school board member here I just saw. That's completely separate from the City of Redondo Beach. That's nothing to do with us. Then we have a charter member RB, which is the most important item on our city election for this November. Yes, it is true we have a special election for this. And the reason why it's here is because the state and the housing requirements from the state overreach and local zoning and the multitude of lawsuits that we have won is now forcing us to change our charter to ensure that we have complete state compliance, complete local control moving forward. It's a timing issue. We have to have this done by February of next year. And if that doesn't pass, I don't care the size of this bond. The only thing city staff are going to be doing are processing developer remedy applications, and city council is going to be running around trying to get our state housing certification in compliance. And the last thing is this bond. This bond is here because we have the Measure RB item, and that's why that is here.
We're going to move on to our closing statements now. We're closing questions since we're running behind time.
Okay, thank you. Well, again, thanks for all of you for coming out today and asking tough questions. I am confident this council is doing the right thing in putting this bond forward at this time when other councils have kicked the can down the road for decades. So I applaud them for taking responsibility. I'm fairly new, so I'm not going to take credit for it, but I fully support what they're asking for. I fully support our police and fire, and I fully support all the statements that have been made with regard to the condition of our facilities. I also stand behind that this is the right process. It would cost us many millions of dollars and many more years to get to the detailed designs that have been asked for today. And frankly, we don't have the budget for that. And so our way of doing this is with this bond, and I encourage everyone in this room to vote yes on FP, and I fully support it. And if you want to ask me more details after this, I am fully open to tell you why I'm supportive of this. Thank you. Please choose. Please choose. Oh.
Okay, thank you. As we get ready to conclude, I want to thank everyone for attending this and for the opportunity to discuss this critical need to rebuild the Redondo Beach police facilities. Our current facility, built in the late 50s, is no longer equipped to meet the needs of a city that has grown by over 40% since then. The station is in a state of disrepair with deteriorating infrastructure and outdated systems that make it difficult to maintain public safety standards. The increase in our population and the growing number of visitors to our city have resulted in a higher demand for police services, yet our facility has not kept pace. Rebuilding the station and the annex is not just about replacing aging structures, it's about ensuring we have safe, modern, and adaptable facilities that can support the future of public safety in Redondo Beach. In addition to addressing the current state of disrepair, rebuilding these critical facilities is necessary to meet modern legislative requirements, including stricter regulations around use of force, data transparency, and the secure storage of evidence, including digital evidence. Updated and current buildings will also allow us to upgrade our technological infrastructure, ensure ADA compliance, and improve seismic safety, which is crucial in Southern California. By investing in updated new police facilities, we're investing in the long-term safety, sustainability, and the well-being of our community, better equipping the city of Redondo Beach and the police department as we continue to serve our community effectively for decades to come. Thank you.
Robert?
Excuse me, sir. Oh, sorry. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. It's great to see that number of concerned citizens who did come out because they're interested in talking. Debate's a great thing. That's how we get things out into the open. The only thing I want to leave you with as my final thought is if anybody thinks any of these pictures are doctored or not accurate, I'll stay up over here and tell me what time or what day you want me to take you on a personal tour of the station. I'm happy to do it. I can't take you through the jail because of privacy laws, but I'll let you see anything else. And you can see for your own eyes the condition that we're in. My last point is that if we kind of continue to kick the can down the road on this or try to put more lipstick on this cake, it's only going to get more expensive the longer we wait. Thank you very much. If anybody would like a lawn sign because they support the measure, I'm glad to give you one today.
Or a t-shirt.
Like everybody else, I'd like to thank those hardy few who showed up. I did not have time to make a lot of the points. I actually have enumerated 13 different reasons to oppose this measure. Not to oppose new fire police facilities, but to oppose this measure. A number of those arguments are on green flyers in the back table back there. There's also a sign-up sheet if any of you want to be on our email list. We're talking an estimate based on square footage. But do we have any specifics on individual square footage? How big is the evidence locker going to be? The men's locker room, the women's locker room, the booking facility, how many jail cells? You know, jail cells can be profitable. Sean Penn had to serve some weekends in jail and rather than go to LA County, he paid us and stayed in our jail. Manhattan Beach does the same thing. So, and again, they're asking for $10 million to refurbish a building we don't own. A building that we will continue to have to pay lease payments on till the cows come home. They're not going to build, we gotta have a better police facility, but we gotta have one that's too small to handle all the police functions. I don't think that would go over in a middle school debate, okay, much less this. I mean, the approach is absurd. We don't have the money. We don't have the money. We don't have the money. What they're telling you is, we don't have enough taxpayer money to give the taxpayers specifics on how we can get and spend more of their money. Again, preliminary drawings are just that. I was at the Manhattan City Hall at the time they were building new police and fire as part of the Metlocks development. I'm standing in the aisleway there in the planning department waiting my turn and looking at the model. And the assistant city manager comes by and says, "What do you think?" And I said, "Well, I think it's great, but I got one problem. You show a common subterranean parking garage between the shopping center and the new facilities. But your police sally point for bringing in prisoners and releasing prisoners is down on that same level, and there's no barrier. What if a prisoner gets loose in the mall?" Guess what? They changed it. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh.
Is that my turn?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Great, thank you. I'm not going to give you scare tactics on why we should or shouldn't build a police station or fire station. I'll share with you that I was involved with the initial planning stages. I met with the consultant and I actually asked him, "Hey, can you send me the plans to Manhattan?" And he did. What he told me was Manhattan is going to be half the size of what you need on Station 1. I asked him, why was it $9 million? And he said, well, in 2019, when they started that was what it ended up being 5 years later. In 2000, I worked on a bond in Los Angeles. We built 19 stations with a $300 million bond that was passed by 77% of the voters. Costing that average, each station back then in 2000 was $15 million. $15 million in 2000 is $27 million today. The last thing I'll tell you is it sounds like there's a lot of, don't let perfect be the enemy of good. Chester Sullenberg was a pilot who, when he departed LaGuardia, had a bird strike. And he had 3 options, and there was a time pressure. Do I return to LaGuardia? No. Do I go to Teterboro? I don't know if I'll make it. And what he ended up doing was he took the 3rd option, and it's called satisficing, which basically means you have to look at an issue and say, it's timeliness, as we've all talked about, and secondly is it something that's going to work and protect the community? And like Sully did, he landed that on the Hudson River, and folks survived. And I think we should look at it the same way. Thank you.
Kenny?
Thanks, Chief. You kind of stole my thunder on the Manhattan Beach piece here. But does anybody know how many firefighters work out of that station? I think there's probably 2 people in here that do. There's 3. Fire Station 1 houses 10, Fire Station 2 houses 8. And that's not including the expansion we have potentially of an ambulance program that will house at least 2 to 4 more in each station. So if you take rough numbers, we've got $9 million for 3, times that by 3, I think we're in the ballpark. But that's just rough numbers here. Those stations too, they also have another station that houses all of their reserves. So it's a bigger conversation than just putting a picture up on the board. Like Robert said, if anybody wants to take a picture of the station, or a tour of the station and make sure those pictures are real, I'll be here. Get my name, number, we'll go. Also too, I have lawn signs, and I urge everybody here to vote yes on FP, and all of my members as well urge you to vote yes on FP. And thank you to council for making this happen and putting it in front of the public. And thanks again to Colleen. Appreciate it.
Jill.
Thank you. I've pretty much said everything that I wanted to say regarding my concerns about this particular bond at this particular time, but I just would like to go on the record to point out that when I asked any of the people who might be running for election if they would commit right now to not having the police and fire unions walking the streets and putting out flyers and making donations to their campaigns, none of them agreed to commit to that. Maybe I should also have asked the fire and police unions if they would agree to remain neutral on all of the candidates who are running for office who are currently in support of this bond measure. Because what I would really hate to see is I scratch your back, you scratch my back, continuing to go on in this city. I think we've had quite enough of that over the years as it is. Thank you.
Councilmember Narenheim.
Thank you. I'll be quick. First, anyone knows me, I'm all about debate, public comment, getting public input. And I really want to thank CalFax, Calhaven for putting this on and paying for this room and making this happen, because this gets the word out, and we get the word out and put some sunshine on it. It gets answers, questions and answers happening, and I want to just let everyone know, at the end of the day, come November 6th, we're all still community members, we're all still neighbors. So we have to keep that in mind. And we also have, I want to thank one of the questions here, right? Measure RB on the November ballot. Measure RB is a charter change, and it's the most important charter change we have to vote for, vote yes on. And I've been up here for 7 years, and I think this is a great step forward, what we're doing, moving forward with all of these things moving forward. And I couldn't be happier to see where we're at. I couldn't be happier to support, especially the fire department, who have worked so hard to defend and promote here. And of course, police department's 48% of this bond, so don't want to let that go past. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you so much. I do want to mention that to pass this bond, we need 2/3 approval. That's 67%. So all the flyers that you're getting, the big flyers, we're trying to educate people and let them know that this is a need for the community. When we knock on doors, a lot of people aren't aware that this bond is happening, but when we talk to them, they're supportive. The task is for us to get this passed. If we don't pass it now, we'll be putting bigger Band-Aids on these buildings for a longer period of time. We'll be taking more of our budget from other services and putting it into these older facilities. So we are exploring, there was a mention of grant money. I'm unaware of any grant money that's available for these police and fire stations. We are exploring a grant that will fully fund to rebuild our police shooting range. So that's a great suggestion, and we are exploring that. I would ask, when we talk about accountability, we are elected officials. If we are mismanaging money, you're gonna know about it and you can vote differently. And when it comes to police and fire unions, I got elected without their support, so I don't think it's an issue.
Councilmember Baji?
I got elected without their support too, actually, the first time. The only time I needed their help was when we had a $500,000 cannabis guy rolling out a campaign against me using lies and the like. I'll say this, I was in Fire Station 2, and there are treadmills, a bicycle, a stationary bicycle, and a Stairmaster right behind the fire engines. Do we see a problem with that? In this day and age when we know so much about carcinogens, those engines pull out, they push carcinogens into the station, and that's where they work out. And they breathe in that facility with carcinogens all up on the wall. It's time for a change, it's inhumane. A big tidal wave of yes on FP is coming in Redondo Beach. The residents overwhelmingly support this. I'm walking right now, by the way. I don't need anybody to walk for me later. And so I urge you, grab a t-shirt from me, join the camp. Joe, I got one in your size. Join the camp of Yes on FP. Thank you.
No, thanks. I
Why don't
appreciate
we
the
call
offer.
for lotion?
I love a sense of humor.
You're up next, Bill. You get
Oh,
another-
I am?
Where's Menosha? It's so bad.
Can I cede my time to this, young?
No.
No? Okay. Well,
This is
so since this is my summary time, I'm gonna say we are not against the replacement of these aging buildings. We all know it's necessary. That's all. Okay.
Jess.
Yeah. Awesome. Guy campaigning already. But he doesn't need the police and fire. Like I said, there were a lot of points I did not get to make. I hit